So it looks like I just discovered that there's a chip in the lens on this camera. So we'll see if this video is at all useful. It looks like a little sliver of something, and it's not in the case, it's actually the lens. Anyway, oil changes. So as you can see, I'm in my garage here. Got my motorcycle out. It's a 2013 Ducati Hyper 821, and let's see, pretty nice day outside. But anyway, I'm interested in doing an oil change on it. It's the first time I'm doing one on this bike. I've had a whole bunch of motorcycles previous, 6 or 7 I think, 5 or 6, something like that. I've had a whole bunch of different motorcycles, and have done a lot of oil changes myself, but with the Ducati I thought, well, it's an expensive bike, I might as well just do it all right through the dealership. However, I went in a couple weekends ago, and I was talking to the guy at the service department, and he's like, oh yeah, you can schedule an oil change. And sure enough, he's like, well, it's about 2 months out, and that seems ridiculous to me for just an oil change. So I looked into like, what does it entail. It's really simple. It's no more difficult than my tractor, which is right there, which I incidentally did an oil change on 2 weeks ago. The oil change is real simple. I heat up the motor, run it for a few minutes, drain the oil out of it, pull the filter off, new filter on, replace the drain plugs, and put new oil in. It's really, really simple. So all you need is you need to have the right tools, a couple Allen wrenches, a torque wrench for the right tightness for the bolts, and some oil and a new filter. So that's what I'm gonna do. We'll see how this goes. I'm on the old GoPro right now. I know I said that I'd have the new one. My friend actually landed in Hawaii this morning, so she's gone for another week or so. So anyway, I've got my old GoPro, but I put on the low speed cover on the back, and the low speed cover on the back is designed to let a lot more sound in. It's for like if you're not anywhere you need waterproof or you're not going over 100 miles an hour. It actually says that on the back of the camera. So anyway, yeah, so we'll see how the sound is. Hopefully you can hear me, and we'll go from there. So you can see I've got all the various stuff here. So the first piece, I got to run the motor for about 10 minutes or so. Just get it idle, get it warm. So I've got the bike up on a rear stand. It basically holds the bike through going through the center axle. Ducatis don't have double swing arms for the most part. So you can actually lift the tire off the ground, which just leaves the front on. Pull that so it's just sort of sticking out of the house. All right, kill switch here, flip that up. So that bike hasn't started since last winter. Since before that, I winterized it for the season, drained all the fuel stabilizer, that kind of thing, kept it all clean. And it's been sitting in my basement. Other than that, it's been on a battery charger just to keep the battery up. So I'm actually pretty pleased. You heard that took like half a second to start, so that's a good thing. It's warm but not hot. The exhaust is hot, but the oil itself is just warm to the touch. First thing is I've got to pull the safety wire off. That's since I go to the racetrack. You gotta have your oil filter wired tight so that way it can't rattle loose or fall off. Oh, son of a bagel. The exhaust is really hot. Nice skin on the... Touched the exhaust and it left my handprint on the exhaust. First thing, get our drain bolt loose. Second thing, get our drain bolt loose. There we go. I need gloves. Nitrile gloves. Keeps my hands nice and clean. And now it'll smell like burning rubber if I touch the exhaust instead of burning skin. So let's loosen this puppy up. Ooh, and there's the oil. So one thing that's really cool is this bolt. I don't know if you can really see it, but see right, oh, I just burned my hair on the exhaust. Ah, stinks. Notice, don't bump your head on that. That's the exhaust. One thing I can show you here is right on the end of this. See how there's these little metallic fibers? I don't know if you can see that. There's a magnet on the end of this drain bolt, and this drain bolt holds on to any metal shavings or anything that come off and prevents it from getting further into the engine. Inside here you can see all the little filings and pieces of metal. And all that is that's the inside of the engine, the pistons, the rings, the sleeve, all kind of just like bumping against each other as the engine runs. And they kind of hone each other off each other. And so the magnet just keeps that from cycling around and causing additional friction and or jamming anything up. Alright, so I've got oil hand. Ugh. Bigger drain bolt. Oh yeah. The bike takes 3.3 liters of oil, which works out to somewhere between 3 and 4 quarts. So when you buy the oil for this thing, it's easiest to just buy 4 quarts and use most of it. And then you have a little bit left over if it needs a top off at some point. But technically, the bike can go, I think it's 7,200 miles between oil changes, which is really good for a bike. You don't drive it, generally you don't drive it, oh there we go, oh. Alright, the bolt and the washer right here. We're going to let it drain for about 20 to 30 minutes, make sure that it gets as much out as we can, and then we'll come back. While the oil is draining, I'm helping my wife load mulch. So, we got my truck, we got my tractor, we're loading mulch. It doesn't say how heavy they are, they're 2 cubic feet. It says it's 56 liters of wood, whatever that weighs. Here's our apple tree. Hopefully we'll have apples this year. Last year it made 6. I think it can do better than 6 apples. Alright, it's been about 30 minutes. The bike is just about done draining. You can see just an occasional drop there. And it doesn't matter if there's a little bit left in it. One thing that's real important, I put the key over on the workbench. You want to be sure to have the key out of the bike so there's not even the remotest chance that this thing could get started while it's drained of oil. There's no faster way to destroy an engine, that's for sure. This is a strap wrench. And you basically just put it around your filter and then twist it. Alright, once that thing's hands tight loose, and you'll notice I've got a plastic bag here, and this is put the filter in after I drain it, because I don't want it to fall into the bin here and get even dirtier. And I don't want to just throw it away. You gotta recycle these things. So we're gonna get a mess here. As quickly as I can, take this thing off. Yeah. Oil all over my hand. But that's why I wear a glove. So now we're replacing the 2 drain bolts. Now you may be wondering why it was still dripping and replacing it. Basically, it's pretty simple. It will drip until literally every particle of oil is out of this thing, which would be probably sometime in the next week. So what I'd rather do, seal it off, clean it, torque it down, and not worry about it. Since it doesn't matter, because I'm going to be adding 3.3 liters of oil to this. So having a handful of drops in the machine still, not going to matter. Plus, you run it for 10 minutes, the oil is going to get circulated and it'll get diluted. So, anyway, that's why. So next step is to take our shiny new air or oil filter, and you put a little bit of oil on the inside to get all the fiber and filament kind of saturated, so that the second you start it up, the bike's actually getting clean oil. And then we pop it on, tighten it down, torque everything, and then add our oil, and we're done. They pre-oiled the main O-ring, which is good. You can see it's shiny right along here. And that's just so it seals real well and cleanly against the bike. So one thing you always do is just make sure there's no grit or grime along that edge. Because otherwise, it just isn't going to seal real well. Alright, so poured a fair amount in. And so interesting, I don't know if the camera's picking this up. It's like a pinkish color. Usually the oils I've used have been like brown. Or like a color of beer, like a light beer. But I'm just checking the label of the thing. It does say that this is 4-4 synthetic engine oil for 4 strokes. 4 strokes don't burn oil, like a 2-stroke does, so this has got to be the right stuff. Yeah, see how pink that is? That's interesting. Alright, so we're rotating the filter around, just trying to get it kind of worked into the filters. Alright. Alright, those are torqued. 17 millimeter bolt on the bottom. You want 11 newton meters of torque. One thing that's kind of neat, so here's where your oil filler is. We're right down here, so down on the side of the engine is your sight window. And so this is just basically low line, high line. You fill it, you put in about 3 liters, see where we're at. Put in 3.1 maybe. Cap it up above. Start the engine for a second, let it cycle, shut it off, see where this goes to, and then basically you fill it till it's in the middle. The next step is take our multi-purpose funnel, stick that right in there, and take our oil, and pour it in. Away it goes. Now if you look, the sight glass here is starting to show a little bit of oil, which is good. I think 3 is going to bring us pretty close to the top. But also, one thing to keep in mind, part of what I said about why you cycle it is right now there's no oil anywhere in the engine except where we've just gone and put some. And so all the other parts, all the cooling lines, all the kind of various ducting within the engine doesn't have any oil on it. So we need to go put oil on it. We're going to go a little bit slower on this one, just because as we're starting to approach kind of our max, we want to be real sure that this doesn't overflow. And here's the dilemma a lot of people always run into. We're at the full line. We're as high as we really want to be on the motor. So what we end up doing is we're going to put the cap on. We're going to just turn the engine over a couple times. Let it run for 10 seconds, not even that much. And then we'll see where that goes. One thing that's real important, make sure that all of those bolts that you put on the bottom, make sure that they're really clean of oil, so that once you start up the bike, once you run it for a little bit, you can actually see, are there any leaks, are there any places where the oil is weeping through. That'll help you in the long run, because otherwise you're like, is that new oil, is that old oil? So we're back to slightly above the full line, but I think that's going to change again when we start it. So let's do it. Car's looking pretty good, huh? All right. This out. You saw that it went low while we were running the engine, and that's normal. The sight glass is actually designed only to work when the thing's off, and now it's slowly creeping back up. We're right in between those two lines, so I think we're actually in good shape. I don't know that we need to add any more oil. So I have one extra. All that means is the next couple times I ride it, go for a little ride, 20 minutes or something, come back, check out, where is it on the line, top it off if I need to. But as far as I'm concerned, this is just about done. Got a safety wire the filter on, so that's the next step. A couple bugs on the front. Did about 200 miles on it yesterday. Don't know if any of the clips from that will come out, but we'll see. So you'll notice last time when I was doing this, I had a kind of a big hose clamp around the filter. And that was because the stock Ducati filters don't have any other way of attaching, so you basically clamp this thing on. What you'll notice though, at the bottom of the K&N filter, I don't know if you can see that, there's actually a hole right through the bolt, a 17 millimeter bolt. And that hole lets you run the wire through, twist it, and then you can anchor it to the same point on the bike, and that's actually built right in. So it's a little cleaner, a little more professional looking in my opinion. When you're cutting safety wire, you always want to cut a little more than you think you need, because you have to twist everything, that makes it a lot shorter. So you run the wire through the bolt. I don't know if you can see, but basically the wire is going to run from here to here. You see this? I've got a bunch of extra. So that's good, that's what we want. Put both pieces through, right about here. You want to go for a fairly tight little twist here, and look at that. Perfect. So now we unthread and we undo one half of this and run it through that hole. Now you thread it back onto this thing, bend it over so it'll stay on, and we twist it further. And then you just clip off the excess. You leave a little bit so that the twisting acts like a knot. A little bit so that just sort of holds everything on tightly. And basically, I mean, that's pretty darn tight. And it's going to hold the bolt here from twisting, holding the filter from unspooling. Then you're good to go. So I think in a nutshell, we're basically done with the oil change. I gotta do some cleanup here, which really isn't gonna be fun for anyone, myself included. And we're all set. Till next time.